Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're looking at an absolute nightmare scenario in aviation, one that seriously pushes the absolute boundaries of human skill and aerodynamic engineering. We're breaking down the terrifying cascade of technical challenges Captain Liul Abate faced when a hijacked Boeing 767 Ethiopian Airlines Flight 961 ran entirely out of fuel over the open Indian Ocean. This isn't just a story about a hijacking, it's a fascinating, honestly terrifying look at the sheer physics of what happens when a massive airliner suddenly loses its lifeblood.
Imagine dropping right into the cockpit at 39,000 feet, the exact moment the fuel tanks run dry. Just think about the chilling finality of those words spoken by the captain, "Both engines are out." That's it. Right there, in a fraction of a second, a $40 million state-of-the-art jet literally loses all power. The high-pitched whine of the engine simply vanishes, completely replaced by an incredibly eerie silence.
And while we're talking about engineering and physics here, we absolutely have to remember the immense human stakes. 175 souls on board, 0 engines, 0 fuel. Their aircraft instantly transformed from a highly powered, meticulously engineered flying machine into a powerless 100-ton glider. The whole aircraft was now entirely at the mercy of gravity and aerodynamics. So the crucial point here is understanding the immediate aerodynamic failure that happens next. When you're cruising at 39,000 feet, the air is incredibly thin. Because the aircraft didn't run out of fuel in both tanks at the exact same millisecond, which makes sense, right? The right engine died first. As soon as that thrust is lost, the aircraft immediately slows down. And as we know, in aerodynamics, slower speed means the wings generate less lift. Captain Abate was instantly forced into a desperate steep descent, basically hunting for thicker, denser air closer to the ground just to keep the wings generating enough lift to stay level. This immediate aerodynamic failure quickly built into a completely escalating nightmare. Because losing engines doesn't just mean losing forward momentum, it means losing the vital lifeblood of the airplane's control systems. The engines don't just push the plane forward, they supply power to almost all the electrical and hydraulic systems. Without them, the autopilot disconnects, cockpit computer screens go dark, and the cabin air conditioning immediately halts. It's just a total cascading system failure.
For the passengers back in the cabin, the sensory reality shifted drastically. As one survivor noted, the second engine deepened in tone and then just went quiet. Without the AC, it started to get noticeably hot really fast, and the lights flickered and died. It's a terrifying, visceral transition from a completely normal flight to sitting in a powerless metal tube hurtling toward the ocean.
Now, aerospace engineers do actually plan for the impossible. Without engine power, Captain Abate had to rely on a brilliant low-tech backup system called the Ram Air Turbine, or the RAT. This is essentially a small propeller that automatically pops out of a trapdoor in the aircraft's belly. As the plane glides, the rushing outside air spins this propeller like a windmill, generating a tiny trickle of basic electrical power. It's literally just enough to keep his absolute most basic airspeed and flight instruments alive. But here's the massive catch. The RAT gives you basic instruments, sure, but it does not provide hydraulic power. Imagine driving a massive truck and suddenly losing your power steering. Now multiply that feeling by 1,000. Without hydraulics assisting the flight controls, Captain Abate was essentially wrestling a 100-ton piece of metal with pure physical strength. Like he noted afterwards, the controls were heavy. It became this massive physical limitation just to physically move the control columns. The terrifying math of this glide dictated everything that followed. Without engines, a large passenger jet can glide about 18.5 kilometers forward for every 1,000 meters of altitude it loses. At the altitude they were flying when that second engine quit, they could travel roughly 120 kilometers before hitting the surface. The entire aircraft was effectively put on a giant, inescapable, ticking clock, dictated entirely by math and gravity. And every single physical limitation became a new antagonist for the pilot, especially what we can call the flap problem. To land safely, airplanes deploy flaps on the back of the wings to dramatically slow the plane down while maintaining lift. But flaps require hydraulic power. Because of the engine failure, Abate couldn't deploy the flaps at all. This meant he had literally no way to slow the heavy jet down for the approaching landing.
Because of that devastating flap failure, the 767 was screaming toward the water at 370 kilometers per hour. To put that into perspective, that is more than 100 kilometers per hour faster than its normal landing speed. The aircraft was coming in incredibly hot, carrying immense kinetic energy that simply had nowhere to safely dissipate.
Despite all this, Captain Abate had a plan. Through sheer old-school navigation, we're talking using a small physical atlas right there in the cockpit, he pointed his heavy, fast-moving glider toward an airport on the Comoros Islands. But tragically, a physical struggle with the hijackers forced him to lose his bearings during a crucial turn. He lost his visual on the runway and lost too much altitude to make it back. A high-speed water landing, a ditching, became absolutely inevitable.
Now contrast the belly of a 767 with a plane like the DC-9 to really understand the brutal ditching physics here. Ditching a flat-bottom plane is difficult, sure, but possible because it can essentially skim the surface of the water like a skipping stone. But ditching a 767, it's nearly aerodynamically impossible. Why? Well, it's because of those massive engines hanging low beneath the wings, sitting well below the actual bottom of the fuselage.
We call this the engine scoop effect. Instead of skimming the water, those low-slung jet engines act as enormous, incredibly destructive scoops. At 370 kilometers per hour, when those open engine cowlings hit the ocean, they instantly grab literally tons of water. The engines try to stop instantly, while the massive momentum of the main body of the plane tries to keep plowing forward. The physics simply do not compute without causing catastrophic destruction.
Let's track the final, violent sequence of this impact. Captain Abate tried his absolute best to keep the plane perfectly level, but as they hit, the left wing touched down slightly low. That massive left engine dug deeply into the ocean surface. The asymmetrical extreme drag of that left engine catching the water acted like a massive brake on only one side of the aircraft. This violently spun or cartwheeled the plane, physically tearing the fuselage apart into 3 or 4 separate pieces in a matter of seconds.
As the shattered, fractured cabin immediately began to fill with ocean water, an entirely new technical and physical survival challenge emerged for the stunned passengers: the danger of unintended buoyancy.
This is a deeply tragic psychological and physical hurdle. Over the intercom, passengers had been told to put on their life jackets, but absolutely not to inflate them yet. However, human nature took over and panic set in. Many passengers inflated their life jackets while they were still inside the sinking cabin. The extreme buoyancy of those inflated jackets forcefully pushed those people straight up against the ceiling of the plane. Trapped against the roof of a sinking metal tube, swimming down to an exit door became nearly impossible.
Yet, against all of these literally impossible odds, 50, despite a 100-ton aircraft hitting the ocean with no engine power, no flaps, no hydraulics, and impacting at highly destructive speeds of 370 kilometers per hour, 50 people survived. This was largely thanks to Captain Abi's deliberate, calculated decision to ditch the aircraft as close to the shallow shores as humanly possible, ensuring the broken pieces didn't just sink directly into the deep ocean.
So it leaves us with a provocative reality about aviation engineering and our own human limits. Could any pilot have overcome the sheer physics of a 767's massive engines grabbing the water at 370 kilometers per hour? Honestly, the answer is likely no. The physics of drag and momentum are just absolute. But what this explainer shows us is that when human skill meets the absolute extremes of physics, sometimes survival isn't about perfectly sticking the landing, it's just a matter of fighting for every single inch, right down to the very end.